this is the front of the 48 Dodge. So we can get it closed up. To there. And if we do the measurements, we have 12.5 to the bottom of the frame. $11.5 to the oil pan. $12.5 to the A-arms. And cross member is 12 inches. We are getting 8.5 to the bottom of the tire. So we've got 3.5 inches to go. So what I was thinking about on this, so we've got this upper mount here and the lower mount here, and on the 50s shoebox Fords they flip these so the passenger side becomes the driver's side and driver's side becomes passenger side. So what that would do is take this pivot here where the kingpin goes through and move it to up here. So that pivot right now, let's just do quick math. Let's say we're an inch from there. Would put us down to here. That's a 5-inch, approximate 5-inch drop. That would put this right at the rim. Right at the rim. And your camber is built into here. So I don't know if I want a 5-inch drop, because this is weird. These things are weird. They got the shock mount coming off of here. But if I do a 5-inch, that'll open this up. I'll have a 2-inch gap here. I've got the bottle jack down a bit. It'll improve this angle, but that'll mean at slammed, this control arm is parallel to the ground. You don't have much. And there's a giant nut coming through here. That doesn't matter because that stays the same. No, that would move up to here. If that flipped, that would bring it up to here and it would hit. So that's not going to work. So knowing that's not going to work now, we're going to do a step arm. Actually, what we're going to do, we're going to take these arms off. We'll get rid of the rivets off of here. What's this bottom out on? Let's jack this back up. So that is now bottomed out on the spring perch up here. So we're going to mount the bag off the bottom surface down here. So if I cut this top plate off of here, I've still got this lower plate that's going to keep the positioning, but that's going to allow me to get more drop. That 1/2 inch there might equate to an inch here, which means I'm only going to look for 2.5 inches out here. So I think that's what I want to do. I want to take this control arm off, or just let it down and I'll drill these rivets out and pop them. and take the spring plate off. Once I do that, I'll jack this back up and see where that gets us with drop, because I'm gaining this. What's this dimension here? I'm gaining this 1 3/4 for the bag, and I've currently got a 3-inch, 4-inch pocket up in here. So I've got a 4-inch pocket, so I can do a 1-inch cup. The bag is 3 inches, but if I come down through, I've got the space for a 6-inch bag in this area. So if I cut this out, we're also hitting on here. What's that? That's just a stopping on the same thing. So let's cut this plate out and let's see where that gets us, because I think we're going to be pretty close, and then we should be potentially hitting up here too. So I think we're going to be into upper arm changes and lower arm changes to get this front drop. I think the bag pocket, the bag mount and bottom mount, I think is going to be fairly simple. I'm going to be able to do my standard mount where I do a base plate, do a 1/2-inch standoff, and then the top plate, and that gives the slam bag, because the slam bag comes over top and sits down below the mount surface, then it doesn't rub on anything. So I'm going to let this down, take the wheel off, cut this plate off, and see where we go from there. So let's do that. Okay, because this is a Dodge likes to do things differently. We have left and right hand threaded wheel studs. So on the driver's side, it is, sorry, left-handed bolts. So it's clockwise to loosen them. There's a little bit of pressure on this wheel. We're just going to yank it off. Oh, no, there wasn't. Psych. Okay, so what we're going to do is this plate here used to hold the spring, and there's 6 rivets holding it in. We're going to cut that out, and then we should be able to jack it up another 1/2 inch higher and keep the rest of it the same. Yeah, let's do that. So I cut the bottom of the rivets with a zip disc, and I'm just going to air chisel them off and air chisel the plate away from the A-arm. is that plate. It's off. Covered myself in dirt. Okay, we'll get that tire back on. See what that did for us. Just struggling with it for no reason at all. Oh, that looks way better. Okay, that's it. We are $9 3/4. So we've still got 2 3/4 inches to go. So 2 3/4 inches left. We're gonna step the lower control arm to get that. And then we'll change the angle on the upper control arm. We'll see where our camber's at, and we'll do a camber adjust on our, I don't know, maybe lower control arm, so that we get it sitting in a little bit more. That way you can cruise low, turn low, make your life a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about lifting it up to do a turn. So I think that's good for tonight. It's like 9 o'clock. Okay, so I just finished taking out the lower control arm. It had the 4 bolts holding the one end, and then the big end where the bolt goes through and has a jam nut on it that bolts it to the upright. Also disconnected the tie rod end because it's coming up fairly high and gonna hit the frame. So I'm gonna probably do a kick down on the arm on that. But here I've got the lower control arm out, wire wheeled it. I've got black marks where I'm gonna cut it, and I'm gonna do a 2-inch drop arm on this. So we're gonna cut here, raise this up 2 inches, and I'll gusset out the side, do a plate on the inside, and tie it back in as much as I can. We're gonna remove this plate later, and I'll plate the bottom and do the lower bag bracket so it'll sit. Let's grab a bag. The bag will sit in there. So I usually do a plate on the bottom, got our bottom mount, so it'll sit up on a bit of pipe, so that, like I said, when this comes down, this is exaggerated, this one's slightly deformed, but it does sink lower. This is an SS6 bag, so we'll have that sitting in there. If I need to, I can radius some of this out and put the strength back in the outside. I probably will plate the entire outside of this as well. So we'll do the Z. It'll come up to here. We'll plate that down and do the whole thing with 3/16 plate. So we're going to get cutting on that. I'll cut out my plate to go across there, and then we'll test it on the car. The other spot on this car that's a bit of an issue is right up here. So when let's get our light in a better spot. When this upper control arm comes up, it hits the frame, or hits the body, and where that is right where the battery is on the inside of the car. So I might just move these batteries a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, this car does have 2 batteries. Some of the system runs on 6, some of it runs on 12. We're going to tie into the 12 when we do the management system. So I'm going to get cutting on this and fabbing away. We'll see what it looks like when it's done. Just working away on these A-arms now. So I've got one tacked together, or welded, with the 2-inch step. This one I've just cut apart And here's the other piece here. So what I did was I did a slice. I put this plate that I cut in there and I tacked this piece up. I threw it on the car and put the car at ride height. And then I stuck my camber gauge on it, and I was sitting at -4 degrees camber. So we did a quick, my wife was out here helping me. We did a quick little 10.5 was the height from the upright upper pivot to the lower pivot. And I did a tip to see where I could get it back to about 0. And it looked like 3/4 of an inch. So what I did was took an additional 3/4 of an inch out of the end piece. And that way when I weld it back together, it's going to give me my proper camber. And then we're going to put some Z plates on the side of this, brace it all back in. This lower plate's probably going to disappear. We'll keep it in there for now, but we'll just keep going with it. We'll get it back on the car. We got to do our bag setup on it. So there's going to be more cutting to do on these arms, but this is just how this step's going right now. So we'll keep working away. I've been working away on these lower control arms for the car. I've got the driver's side done. So I did a 2-inch step. Got the bag on a bit of a riser here. This is my builder bag that I've got back here. So tons of clearance around it. This is my upper bag pocket. So it's utilizing 2 holes. So on a normal bag pocket, what I do is go up through where the shock was. But on these ones, if you do that, you go through the crossbar on the upper control arm. So there was a rivet off to the side that went through 2 pieces of metal. So I'm using that. I drilled it out. I'll use that to bolt through. And then there was another hole slightly off to the front of the car. I drilled through that and put that second piece of threaded rod on there. And that's just holding it a little bit more since it's not in the center. I wanted to have something that was going to hold the back a little bit better. So driver's side is done. The passenger side, I've just got the lower control arm with the notch out. The drop's already done. The braces are already on it. So I still got to do the base plate. And I've got my lower bag cup already done, so that's going to go through there. And then here's the upper bag bracket that I still got to put together. So I'm going to put the driver's side one in the car, and then I can reference all my dimensions off of it. Do the passenger side, take it off. I'll get both tacked together to where I'm happy, pull them off, weld everything up. Then I can paint them, put the bags in, run some plumbing. I'm going to do the plumbing. Got the hole out the side. So I'm going to do the plumbing 90-degree fitting. And that takes it into, can't really see. There's a void right here. I'm going to come out of there. I'll probably pop a hole in the back once it's done. For right now, I'm just going to come out of here and dip down. That's just to get everything set up, and then I'll do the final plumbing. And I still got to mess with the steering arms. Steering arms come through the frame. So on the kits from Fatman, you have to heat up the steering arm, bend it down. On some of them already come done. So I'm probably going to end up doing that on this car. But let's get working on the passenger side, get it matching the driver's side, and then we can get them both painted up at the same time, bolt them both in, get the fittings in, get the lines in, and I can't do any testing on it until I get the steering done because I don't want the wheels to move weird and potentially wreck the fenders. So we'll have to get the steering arms done before we can trial it up and down, but at least we'll have the bags in today and the airlines temporarily run so that we can do some trialing. Okay, so we got lower control arm bolted back on. Our build bag, our standoff. So we'll bring this up. Use that to pinch that up there. And then we can take our plate. We'll take this plate and can't really see, so let's move. So see right here. So we're going to take this plate, put it up onto that. Disconnect. Okay, so let's find a better spot. Right there looks good. Make sure I don't break that again. So we're going to take this plate, put it onto there. Laying on the welder. Okay, so we got that tacked on. So now we'll lift this back up. See? No, we'll wait. We'll wait a sec. Let's get this unbolted first. That's unbolted. Drop that out. Let's get this back up into here. Take off these two nuts up top. Okay, so that's off. Let's get this off. And then we can go over to the bench and weld everything up. I guess I had nuts in the socket, so I ended up double nutting that. That was weird. more nut. Okay, so we've got our 2 pieces out. We'll head over to the bench and weld them up. Okay, so we got our bag cups and bags set up, our lower control arms. So we're going to work on putting everything back into the car now. I'll have to do some clearance on the driver's side still, where the upper control arm comes up. It hits some bodywork. Same on the driver's side. So we'll do that as well. And then we'll look at the steering arms, what we can do there. It looks like a really big frame notch, so I don't want to do that. It'll be too big for this frame. So we'll see what we've come up with. Okay, so we got the bag in there, lower control arm, kingpin bolts back in. Got it jacked on the jack stand there, or jack, just to keep the tension off the bag. I don't like letting bags droop. So, cut out a little bit more up there. And you can see over here, grab the light. So this steering arm here is supposed to go in the top, and this still has to go up another 4 inches. So we'll take a look at that next. I want to move the battery and cut the other side now. So do that, and then we'll look at the steering. So we got everything together. I measured up the steering arms and brought the tie rods up. They need about 3 inches a side. I don't have torches here, so I'll have to go steal my dad's, bring them over here and do it on the car. That way I can fine tune it to get it exactly where I want it. It's obviously just going to lay out with the wheels facing forward, so I don't want it to go too crazy on the adjustment. I just want to make it enough that it drops at ride height. We can turn the wheels both ways, no issues. I'm going to start working on the rear arms for the suspension. I've got the steel I need. Airbags are coming on Wednesday. Ordered those last week from Travis over at Air Slam It. And we've got our TMR bushings in now. So we got everything we need almost. Still have to get U-bolts for the rear, but I'll do that during the week. But for this video, we'll just end it here. We got everything done that we wanted to do this weekend. So thanks for watching, and